You have a large HVAC project to do. Who do you hire?
Meet Chris, an HVAC expert who installed his first system at just 11 years old. Since 2000, he has been running his company full-time, working on everything from massive industrial facilities to high-rise office buildings and thousands of high-end residential projects. With over 100 Fortune 500 clients and a reputation for solving the most complex HVAC challenges alongside top engineers, Chris knows this industry inside and out. But here's the thing, he believes the residential HVAC market is the most underserved and convoluted part of the industry. That's why he created the Information for Consumer Show to bring real, honest HVAC knowledge directly to homeowners like you. No sales gimmicks, no confusion, just expert advice to help you stay comfortable and save money. And now, the Information for Customer Success Show.
How do you choose your HVAC contractor? It's actually very easy. If you are in my service area, you of course choose me. All kidding aside, I believe that there's a right fit for every client and every contractor. There's a perfect fit. There's a kind of client and a kind of contractor that work well together, and of course, there's the opposite as well. So it's like dating. You want a relationship that fits your needs, not just the cheapest or the most available option. There are a lot more things to it. Comfort level, communication style, project complexity, all those things matter. Don't hire based on ads alone. Hire based on your true alignment. So for the sake of this show, we are talking about larger scale projects. I am not talking about getting a maintenance done and getting a service call. Those are all smaller ticket items that, if you make a mistake picking a contractor, let's just say it's bad service, you're never going to use them again. Perhaps you lost out a couple $100, something of that sort. Not a great thing either, but what I'm talking about here is when you get a brand new HVAC system in your house because you're building an addition, you're building a new house, or you're replacing your existing system. So these are big ticket items. They require a higher level of bias in terms of hiring somebody, and they require more research on your part. And quite frankly, it's a lot of money. You should vet whoever you're hiring a lot more than any other service really that happens in your house. The alignment happens with the type of contractor and of course the type of project you're looking for. So let's talk about the type of contractors. There are 3 types of contractors. We can have subgroups of each, but this is my personal experience in the residential market in HVAC. There are really 3 types of contractors. Let's go over what those 3 types of contractors are. First kind of contractor is what we call your small shop. Between 1 and 5 total employees. That number can shift here and there. 6, employees, 7, 4, right? This is the owner-operator type of company. This is where they might do a little bit of everything. Now, the advantage of working with such a company is they have lower overhead, which means often lower prices. Owner is often directly involved, so you get that personal feel. And the things to watch out for would be limited availability in emergencies, lack of a deeper bench, or lack of more thought out and engineered projects. I am generalizing here. There's going to be exceptions to all of these rules. But I would say from my experience, knowing what I know about the industry, what I say is probably 90% correct. So smaller shops will tend to be extremely busy. They're extremely busy because they have super low prices. Everybody wants to hire them, right? But they get in over their head a lot of times. So if you have a longer term project, they may require consecutive working days. You have to be a little bit careful about these kind of companies because they're the kind of companies who often, number one, they don't show up when they tell you they show up. Number 2 is that if there's 5 working days on the project, they may show up the first 2 days, then they may be missing. You're chasing them down. They may come back another day, and the project just carries on for a month instead of that 5 days. Now, that's not because the company is bad. It's not because the owner is not trying to provide a good service. The owner just doesn't have the staffing to properly run a business, and he's in over his head. He's working 16, 18 hours a day. And he's a little, overwhelmed. That's typically what happens. Now, if you're looking for a project that is going to be a smaller scale project, if you don't have a budget, if you want to take your chances, this is the company to hire. They'll probably do pretty good for you, especially if you have a simple project. the medium-sized company, the company that's got, let's call it 6 to about 50 technicians, or I shouldn't say technicians, is total employees or so. So I think the pros of this kind of company are you get the best of sort of both worlds. You have the capacity and you still have the personal touch. And the beauty of it is that a company like that will now have systems and support in place. So they are not running around ragged. They're very organized. They can handle bigger projects and service calls. The things you got to watch out for is, you need to secure consistency across the teams. Now, there might not be every team, if they just say they have 5 installation teams, not every team is an A team. You might get a C team. You just have to kind of watch out for that. Sometimes that's true for pretty much every company. Now, these kind of companies, they also break down into different kind of companies as well. And I'll go over what each size company is usually capable of doing, the types of projects which you have to ask for. But a medium company is one where you will get responsiveness in terms of communication, you will get pretty good and consistent scheduling, and you still get that personal touch. Let's now talk about the elephant in the room. There's some very large contractors out there, the ones that have 50 plus employees, several hundred sometimes. So what are the benefits of using these type of contractors? Well, they have tons of resources. They can pretty much get somebody over to you, within hours. They may offer financing that some of the other companies may not have access to, longer warranties, full service plans, high availability, and the communication is definitely going to be out there. So there's lots of benefits depending on the type of projects of perhaps hiring a large scale contractor. Now, the things you have to watch out for is less personalization. You are not going to get that personalized touch in most of these companies. You're going to be handed off and treated like a number and not like a client. These kind of companies also have a high employee turnover. So if you have a longer term project, it's very expected that you might have a very good, call them a project lead, a foreman, a project manager that starts your project, but by the end of the project, he's no longer there. So those are the things to watch out for from bigger companies. Now, within all of those companies, there's still a breakdown of the type of company everybody is. There's maintenance service companies, there's installation replacement companies, and there's full construction companies, and they're not all mutually exclusive. There are some companies that only do maintenance and only do service. And you have to sort of watch out if you're trying to get a replacement type project, or if you're trying to get some kind of larger construction type project. That's definitely not the company you want to hire, no matter what scale they are. And there's plenty of large scale companies that really just do maintenance. They're all about doing maintenance, doing service work for you, right? They're not really specialized in replacing equipment, and definitely not installing new equipment, new ductwork, things of that sort. And you have to watch out because a lot of the bigger companies will actually claim to do that work, but they actually subcontract the work. Both the medium and the small size companies could specialize in service, and maintenance only. So you do have to ask, what kind of projects do they do? Do you guys do these kind of projects? Is definitely a primary question you should be asking. But then there are companies who obviously do the service and maintenance work, but they also replace. And replacing is a little bit different than just full-on construction work. So replacing means you have an existing boiler, you have an existing air conditioning system, and it went down, it's broken, you're ready to upgrade, and you're just trying to get it replaced. More or less an apples for apples type installation. So the majority of companies will actually do that. They specialize in just replacement. Now, there goes with a little caveat here. So those kind of companies, if your scenario is a little bit unique and you want to change something up, like you want to let's just say, instead of replacing the unit and leaving it in the same exact spot, you want to move it over 6 feet or so and, extend ductwork and things like that. Sometimes those kind of companies actually struggle. They don't even have materials and training and people that can measure for ductwork and do ductwork. They just kind of know how to put stuff back together and give you new equipment. So there's a little caveat of just, if some people do replacement only, they may be very limited in terms of their resources, in terms of a full-blown installation. Now, the other type of company, of course, is the kind of company that does construction projects. Now, construction projects are where, from scratch, you get to install all kinds of HVAC systems. You get to put in air conditioning systems, boilers. You get to actually install the ductwork, install the piping, install the low voltage wiring. Do complete service. Now, those kind of companies are very skilled and adept in terms of that sort of work. So if that's the work you got, you should be hiring somebody that has that experience. The only thing to watch out for is there's a lot of companies that consider themselves, new construction companies, and they lack the service end of it. So now, if you're looking for a project to be done and you want to make sure that there's a contractor that stands behind their work and kind of continues on a service relationship with you, you want to find a contractor that does that construction work and still has the service. So there's a mixture of all of those. Sometimes companies are uniquely, positioned in those three pockets I told you, and sometimes they have a blend. All right, Chris, but I just moved into this area. I don't know anybody. How do I find a decent contractor? So this is my personal opinion from being involved in the market, using the services myself, and having various experience, various feedback from both every customer and also contractors across the country. I would discourage you from using services like Angie's List, Home Advisor, those kind of third-party services. What they typically do is they cost the contractor money. That's really what they do. They're a Google search that just kind of comprised everything of, here's my list of contractors to you. You could have gotten that list yourself from Google. What you'll get from those kind of services is basically a list of contractors that are paying that service to be there. It doesn't mean they're their best. There's some level of vetting. You're not getting just the lowest end non-company owning type guys. I mean, they have to have license, insurance, things of that sort. But what you also will get is you might get phone calls and phone calls. There's plenty of articles, news articles out there. You can see some of these services weren't quite practicing everything the way they were supposed to, and your information got sold to many other places. And I'm one of those guys that I reached out to one of those services for a roofer for one of the homes that is not in my area where I know roofers. And I ended up hiring a roofer, but then 18 to 24 months later, I started getting phone calls from roofers saying that they just got a lead that I need a new roof. So I'm not a fan of those kind of services. The first place you are probably going to reach out is going to be friends, family, neighbors, right? I think that's a great idea. Somebody that's used, somebody that has proven experience with a contractor, see if they align, if they're the type of contractor who aligns with your work. Number two, you're going to do a Google search, but even with number one, even if you find a contractor, a family friend, somebody recommended to you, you still want to do research on that contractor, and what better place than online, right? I am not a fan of any business that doesn't have presence online. If you have no presence online, what are you really offering? Even as a brand new startup, you should have some sort of a presence online. You should have something that says something about you, right? So if you can't find a company, you can't find anything about them, I think those are red flags. I would not be hiring a contractor that somebody recommended that I may not know well, that there's some vagueness around it, and I have a pretty big project and I don't have any reviews, I don't have any testimonials, I don't have any information on that company. So do a Google search, and the first thing you should be doing is looking at the Google reviews, but you shouldn't just be looking at the stars. I'm going to go over exactly what I think you should be looking for. With the Google reviews, you definitely want to look at the ratings, you want to look at the stars. Now, personally, when I shop at something like Amazon, I buy products that are a 4.5 and up. I have a high standard for products, so when you get a service, especially with that dollar amount that you're going to be spending, I think it's wise to choose 4.5 and up. I mean, can you choose a company that's got 4 stars, 4.8? Absolutely. It's up to your own discretion. Maybe your area quite doesn't even have that many contractors to choose from. However, anything short of 4 stars, I would really stay away from. Now, it's not just about looking at the stars. Yes, we want to look at the rating, but we also want to look at descriptions and stories behind the Google reviews. There's going to be some companies that have a bunch of 5, 4-star reviews and they're just blank. And you go, great, somebody didn't want to write stuff. Yes, you definitely have those people a lot of times that aren't verbose, they don't want to say stuff, they're just giving a review. However, there's a lot of them. It's probably indicative of what a lot of companies practice. Not naming any companies, but I know they practice this, they're not supposed to, is that they'll coerce a customer to give them a 5-star review in exchange for a lower invoice at the end. So a lot of customers kind of just do it. They get a little bit of a discount on the invoice. They're not supposed to. That's not the way Google wants it done. And that's why you'll just see a bunch of stars and then no real description. You definitely want to see a story. You want to see what kind of project was done. You want to see repetitive things like professional, on time, the system works great, the guys were amazing, blah blah blah. Things of that sort. You want to get a feel for the company on the positive reviews. Now, do you want to look at the negative reviews? Absolutely. It's actually the first spot I jump to when I look at Google reviews. I'll look at the negative ones. I'm sorry to say, there's a lot of crazy people out there. They'll just give a negative review for the dumbest reason. Every company's got those. Yeah, a truck cut somebody off, or it was their perception to cut somebody off, and they'll give a 1 star. It has nothing to do with the service the company provides. I know we can dismiss all those. But also, there are instances when things don't go bad. You can't satisfy every customer. And it really is about the response rather than the negative review. How is that company responding to that negative review? What are they doing? If you have a sort of aggressive negative response to a customer, you might want to stay away from that service provider, because there's probably some red flags about some control issues that they have dealing with people. Responses should be professional, and you see how that company dealt with that negative review, what the problem was, and what they're willing to do to correct it. So Google reviews, I think, are your number one thing for vetting contractors. And this is way before you invite any contractor to the door, of course, right? It's going to be a little bit of vetting happening here. While you are looking online for the company, you will stumble onto their license number somewhere on their website. Of course, you're looking at Google somewhere on Google. It'll be there. Take a note that there's a license. Go to your local state, website that checks licenses, and you can go ahead and check it and see if it's active. I would say 99% of the time the company has a license display. It's going to be good, it's going to be active. But there are instances where maybe the license was revoked and they're just using that license and nobody knows. And unfortunately, that's how it is. But of course, I am telling you, hire licensed professionals only. No exceptions to this rule. You kind of vet it online which contractors you want to possibly give a proposal for your project. Next step would be to contact each one of those contractors, and I suggest you never pick more than 5. 3 to 5. You might end up calling 5. You may pick 3 to set an appointment with. But the more contractors, the more proposals you get, the more confusion you will get. Trust me, it's not worth it. You're already doing pretty good diligence selecting your contractor up front. You're choosing from a pool of people that are professional contractors. However, now you're going to make these phone calls, right? Now you have to start asking questions over the phone. Do you guys, I have this kind of a project. Do you guys do this kind of a project? Have you done this kind of a project? And if somebody sort of hesitates already and you're like, no, we haven't, but we're willing to try. Maybe that's not the contractor for you, but if somebody goes, sure, every single day we do these projects. Check out our website, check out this page, look at all the happy customers, all the pictures of our work. That's the contractor you want to pick. All right, so now you have some contractors coming over to the house. On another episode, I'll discuss exactly how you should treat those contractors. It's too lengthy for me to describe here. But you're there to ask questions, really. They're there to ask questions. You're there to ask questions as well. Number one question you should always ask is like, hey, Bob, tell me a little bit about your company. How they operate, how long they've been around, how they run, right? Whatever follow-up questions you want to have, you want to understand the kind of company they are. Number 2, you always want to ask, you guys have insurance? And of course, the answer you're going to get from a lot of people is going to be, yes, we have insurance, but there are nuances to it. I'm going to link a video to something I did a long time ago describing COI, certificates of insurance, because there are a lot of nuances to insurance. Somebody could have insurance that basically covers nothing, and somebody could have insurance that covers everything times your house 75 times over, right? So there are nuances to insurance. Watch the video, they'll explain it. Another question you want to ask is, hey, who's my point of contact during this project? Who's it going to be? Am I going to get a consistent point of contact? Now, lots of companies have different setups. Sometimes the actual salesperson, the person who comes to your house, will be your continuing contact. That's great. That's fantastic. What you want to watch out for is be like, hey, John and Mark that are going to come here, they're going to install your AC, they're going to be your point of contact. Well, You never want the field guys being your point of contact. They're there for that day to do that task, or several days, do the installation. They are wired and geared to do different things. They are not going to be responsive to clients. Now, if Mark and John, Joe, Bob, whoever's installing your air conditioning is there installing your air conditioning working, how responsive are they to the client they just installed a week ago? They can't be, right? So you want to make sure you have something like a project manager or project advisor, the salesperson. Smaller company will have the owner, always available throughout the project. Yes, you want to give them enough time with you because there's a vetting process here. You want to get to know them, right? You want, and by the way, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Very good contractors are also vetting you. Yes. Very good contractors will know what kind of job is the type of job they want to take. So very professional contractors will sometimes say, hey, listen, this is not the kind of job that aligns with our company. I can recommend you to somebody else maybe, or whatever it is, or we can say our goodbyes. Also, a lot of times, the actual project advisors from our company to come over to see clients, sometimes they say this is not the type of client that we want to have as a company. So be prepared to be rejected by a very good contractor, unfortunately. But also, on the flip side, you're also going to be accepting and rejecting contractors as well. That's your whole job. So you have to get to know somebody, not just to explain the project to them and make sure they understand it, but to see what kind of person they also send, because the actual project advisor, some companies call them comfort advisors, it's essentially a salesperson that comes to your house. Well, they're hired for a certain reason, and their alignment, their culture should be reflective of the company. So if you have a guy that's coming in, very curt, very belligerent, well, what kind of company hired a guy that's curt and belligerent, right? Versus a guy that's very patient, understanding, listens to you, works things out. That's representative of the actual company. So make sure you get to know the actual salesperson that comes to the house and you give them the time. Hey, sorry to interrupt. I know the discussion is fascinating, but if you like what I'm doing, please like and subscribe and share it to somebody who thinks it might be useful. So I would truly appreciate it, and will keep me going doing these sort of topics. And hopefully I'm helping you guys out. Back to the discussion. Another question you have to ask is, hey, tell me about the process of this whole project. How does it work? You can definitely leave it vague. Somebody has a good process, will go right into it. They'll fully understand. Whereas if somebody doesn't have an answer, that means they have no process. So if a company comes in, they're late for the appointment, they didn't quite show up on time, or you had to call them to follow up. Well, guess what's going to happen on your project? Same exact thing. Right? So if a company has a process where the actual salesperson comes to your house, sends an email, a text ahead of time, it shows up right on time, it jumps right into doing exactly what he has to be doing and discussing everything with you. Well, they have a process, and that process carries through to the installation, and they'll probably be able to describe it very easily. And what I mean by that is that if you ask me about the process, I'll say, yeah, fantastic. As soon as you accept this proposal, it goes right into my office project team. There'll be one assigned. Somebody reaches out to you within 24 hours, introduces themselves. They get going on a permit process, on equipment procurement, and you'll hear from our project manager within a couple days to discuss schedule and things like that, right? So there's usually a process, and you want to ask that question. Another extremely important question to ask when replacing an HVAC system, or obviously installing a new one: do you guys do load calculations? If you don't do a load calculation, then run away. Please run away. You can't size an air conditioning system if you don't do a load calculation. And the follow-up question to that should be, okay, when you guys have a load calculation, is there a report I get? Now, we personally don't give out the report to a customer if they're not hiring us. But if you're hiring us, we will give you what's called a manual J report. That is the industry standard for load calculations. Every contractor should be doing it. If not, they are guessing. Do not hire contractors that do not do manual J calculations. Do not hire contractors that tell you, they're so complex, so you don't need one. Don't do that. How will the permit process be handled? Now, if somebody goes right into it and explains the permit process, amazing, wonderful. If somebody says, you don't need no stinking permits, red flag. I know there's jurisdictions around the country. Not every jurisdiction requires permits. The majority of them do. There's definitely going to be some rural areas around the country, and I'm from the Northeast. There's not a single place here that doesn't require permits. You have to have permits: mechanical, plumbing, electrical, for even replacing an air conditioning system. And a lot of times require a lot more when you're installing brand new in an addition or a new construction house. So unless you're 100% positive your jurisdiction does not require it, you don't need permits as an answer. A great question too is ask about the technicians. Hey, the guys coming here, the technicians, are they certified? Are they trained regularly? And again, if a company has a process, they'll be able to answer that. They'll be able to tell you, listen, our technicians, they get sent out every month. There's 75 hours of annual in-house training hours and blah blah blah. And there's usually some kind of an answer versus, oh sure, yeah, I trained them, sure. I mean, that's okay. You train them, yeah, you should train any employee, but there should be something above and beyond. There should be some certifications that, they're EPA certified, they're NATE certified, they're whatever manufacturer you're installing and using certified. You should have some kind of an answer for that question. Here's what you got to ask the AC guy that came to your house. What happens if my AC breaks down 3 weeks after you guys install? And they should have an answer for you. Right? Like, it goes right into our warranty department and respond right away, and somebody will come here and fix it and cost you nothing, right? Whatever that answer is. You want to have good warranty coverage. You have to ask about the warranty. What is my warranty? There's a difference. There are two types of warranties. One is a parts warranty. That will come from the manufacturer. Now, if you're picking baseline, cheap equipment, you're not going to get that much warranty. You might get 5 years parts warranty. Sometimes, depends on the scenario, 1 year parts warranty. But if you're buying better, higher end equipment, usually from a contractor that is a dealer of that equipment, you're able to get 10, maybe 12 years parts warranty. So that just means the parts are free. Something breaks 10 years down the road, the cost of the part is free, but the labor, the logistics, everything around it would obviously cost you money. So the second type of warranty is a labor warranty. Not every company offers a labor warranty. A labor warranty is there to cover labor, right? So if a part breaks 10 years from now, the part is free. Is the labor to repair it free? Do you want the labor to repair it free? Are you planning to sell the house in 3 years? So that's something that may or may not be important to you, but generally speaking, companies that offer labor warranties are there for the long haul. They're there to service you on a continuous basis. So if that's the kind of company you're looking for, you ask about the labor warranty. So we just talked about the warranties, right? But part of getting a warranty from a manufacturer is registering the piece of equipment within 60 days. So this is something a lot of contractors do in my area. They'll tell a client that, hey, this equipment has 10 years warranty. Oh, you go, great, fantastic. You get handed a whole bunch of paperwork. You don't really get anything explained and you put the paperwork away. What happens later? You have a problem 4 years down the road. You go, hey, I have a warranty on this. Well, find out, no, you don't. Nobody ever registered a product. You don't have warranty. So what is your policy on the product registration? Do you register the warranty for us? Good companies, I know we do, we will register the product for the homeowner because we know homeowner will forget. Also, it shouldn't be your job. You're paying for a full service. Register the product. That's what every company should be doing. And if they're not doing that for you, well, I would put them on the short list versus the list of contractors you probably want to hire. Now, my personal belief is that usually projects, a lot of times, especially in older homes, require sometimes more than just changing HVAC equipment around, because there's usually something not perfect or not right with the existing setup, the ductwork or filtration or something, some problem to solve. So is your contractor just taking orders and you told him that AC unit needs to be changed? He's like, yes sir, I'll price the AC unit to be changed, and not looking around for other signs of things not right? I mean, it's kind of malpractice in terms of my point of view. A good person will look around and analyze things that are happening. Like they may say, listen, your AC unit location is not up to code. There's no, it's way too close to this, too close to that. It's blocking this, it's blocking that. Your air conditioning ducts are in horrible shape. So yeah, you're going to get a new AC, but it's all leaking out because your ductwork is horrible. So your AC contractor should always be offering you additional things that he spotted or she spotted during their initial visit. Look for those signs versus looking for a contractor who just kind of did a quickie and gave you a price for the equipment just as you stated without going over some of the other aspects of the entire installation. Now, let's just say you want to be extra careful picking your contractor. You believe that you have a very special, sensitive project. It needs a lot of TLC, tender love and care. The question you want to ask is, can you provide client references from similar projects? Now, This one is a touchy point sometimes because I struggle sometimes myself. That do I have client references? Yes, we have plenty of them. Do we have client references for every single type of product? Sometimes not. Sometimes we have extremely happy clients from a certain type of project, but they don't want to be sharing, right? They don't want people calling them. They don't want to be used as a reference. They gave a 5-star review. They're happy, but they want to be left alone. I get it. And then you pick a product that's sort of similar. But if a company cannot provide a reference from a client that you can communicate with, then what kind of relationships are they ending up with after they do jobs? I mean, it sounds like they're not ending up with any relationships. So again, if you're looking for that contractor for a forever home, for a special project, for something you care, you want to have those client references. Which brand do you install and why? Not just which brands do you install, why do you install those brands? I think that's a very important question. And the why is the important one. I will tell you, brands don't matter that much. All the brands have almost all the same lineups. They all have a low tier, a mid tier, a high tier equipment that they're all equivalent to each other. It's sort of like the automobile industry. Every manufacturer's got different kinds of cars that compete on the same level. And yeah, maybe you have a preference, but they're most all likely very similar. So it's very similar in the HVAC sector. Now the why. Now why do you choose this brand is important. Now a lot of the companies like myself, we will tell you we work with this brand because they have exceptional back-end service for us. So the people selling us that brand support us like crazy, and therefore we're able to support you like crazy. That is a great, fantastic answer. If somebody tells you because they like the color of the cabinet, all right, or they like the equipment because it's really cheap, yeah, unless that's what you're shopping for, I would say those aren't great answers for me. Now, unless you are a homeowner who does massive amounts of research, you probably don't know this, but this is a question you want to ask your HVAC guy so he can explain it to you, because you have to know the benefits of each one of these things. Ask them, can you explain the difference between single stage, 2-stage, and variable speed equipment to me? The billion-dollar question. What makes your company different from others I'm considering? Just hear them out. You're going to get all kinds of answers, but that may be the spark that you're looking for. Everybody thinks that they're the best. You're going to get that a lot, this and that. But essentially, it's about the authenticity of what they're talking about. And you pick up on that a lot. Obviously, a lot of what you're going to be doing. Now, I'm giving you some basic tips from my perspective, but the majority of this is going to be your intuition, your gut feeling that you're using on a lot of this, feedback that you're getting. But that is a great question to ask. So the result of this question and answer session in this visit is going to be the fact that you're going to get a proposal. Now, when your project is simple, it's a replacement, somebody probably at the end of this meeting is going to sit down and give you a proposal. But if the project is complex, expect the proposal to be done sometime later. Couple of days. Make sure it's the kind of company that communicates when are they going to give you a proposal. It's part of a deadline, a schedule as well. I don't ever leave it vague for homeowners to guess. I'm going to have it within a couple of weeks or several days, and I'll let you know when I let you know. That's probably not a good answer from a company because, again, that will be indicative of the whole process. When a proposal requires a little bit of further work to sit down, to do proper load calcs, to take things into consideration from the information you gathered, somebody's going to communicate, I will have a proposal for you in about 3 days, right? And if they don't have a proposal for you in 3 days, now, it's the 4th day, I wouldn't make a big deal, but if it's 6 days and then no proposal yet, follow up. Perhaps they did send it and just bounced back on an email, or something didn't happen right with the communication, or wrong email. Maybe that happened. But if they didn't do it, I would say that's a red flag. Run away. If a company is not able to provide you a proposal within the time they said they would, that just means they're in over their heads. They're not managing the workflow correctly. But let's go back to the fact of you did get a proposal. Now, what to look for in a proposal. Here is my personal opinion about proposals. And my personal opinion is a professional opinion. You are watching this because you value my professional opinion. A proposal is supposed to be everything that you're doing in the proposal, right? The more detailed, the better. If the proposal is very vague, there's a lot to be sort of cautioned about, right? A lot of companies, unfortunately, my overall feeling is that there's a lot of great contractors out there. There's very few, small percentage of bad contractors, but there's a lot of contractors who leave things vague, so then later they have the opportunity to go, well, that wasn't in the proposal, that's going to be extra. You want every detail in the proposal. You want everything written out. You want all the accessories. You want nothing left to be sort of considered. And somebody said they're going to do something, make them put it in the proposal. If somebody said, hey, yes, we will move that duct over just as we spoke about, but you don't see it written in the proposal, put it in the proposal. Make them put in the proposal. Don't ever sign anything without it being in the proposal, because later it's a he said, she said sort of situation with, I told the salesperson about this, and then the project team takes over, nobody knows about it, and they want to charge you extra. So proposals have to be very detailed. If they are not detailed, if they don't spell things out, I think that's a red flag. There is no one-size-fits-all HVAC contractor for everybody. It's about who fits you, your budget, your expectations, your project goals. Don't rush, ask questions, and remember, the cheapest bid often becomes the most expensive mistake you will make. As the saying goes, the bitterness of poor quality remains long after the sweetness of low price is forgotten.